everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Ananta, and in today's video we are in conversation with Mr. Abhisar Singh. Bhaiya graduated from Institute of Law, Nirma University, and he's now an advocate on record. An advocate on record is considered as a designation to practice in the Supreme Court of India, and now he has had almost 8 years of practice. Today in this video, he's going to guide us through litigation, kaise kari jaye, how did he decide, what were his struggles, and he's going to guide us as to, for the students who are interested in litigation, what should one do, law school and litigation, all of those things and much more. So make sure you stay till the end. But without further ado, let's get right. Alright, let us all welcome Bhaiya on the channel. Finally, Bhaiya, we're doing this video, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
The pleasure is all mine, Ananta. Thanks for inviting me here.
Bhaiya, so like we're gonna start with the very basic, and जो बहुत obvious question लग रहा होगा, but the question is like, how did you decide that you want to get into practice, and when was that, like how did you make that thought कि हाँ मुझे litigation में जाना है?
So, I'll be very frank here that it's not me who chose litigation, it's the litigation which chose me. So, I had science till 12th and I was not a very good or a bright kid in school. Science was very tough for me. So, after like not excelling in science in 12th, you have very limited options. So, law was one of that. And I was always intrigued by politics and law and constitutional debates and everything. So, that was my one best shot which I could take. So that's how I entered into law school. After entering into law school, I was fortunate enough to represent the college in moot courts. I did Jessups for twice and Henry Dunant for once. So I'll say that moot courts inclined me towards litigation as a profession which I wanted to do further in my life. So that's how I chose litigation.
So Bhaiya, how many years have you been in litigation, and like how has that experience of yours been like?
So I graduated in the year 2014. So I'll say it's been like 8 years I've been into litigation. The experience has been phenomenal. It has been like it's a wonderful joyride. What I'll say, like coming from a non-background person, like and to establish your own practice, it's a dream run.
Because you mentioned you don't come from a background that is of like advocates.
Yeah.
लोग कहते हैं कि एक बैकग्राउंड होना बहुत ज़रूरी है, वरना इट्स वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट, या फिर जिसका बैकग्राउंड होता है उसके लिए बहुत ईजी होता है करना. सो हाउ व्हाट वुड यू कमेंट ऑन दैट?
My point of view on this subject is like it's divided. So having a background, then it's like majorly what I've seen is that you are forced into do law. Like if your father is a very good advocate, you are forced to do law. And if you don't want to do law and you do something which you don't like, then you fail it. Like, and everyone will judge you on the basis that your father is a very good advocate. So I count this as a pro that no one from my family is into law. I can do whatever I want to do in the courts. I can argue with anyone. I can like I sometimes have disputes with the lawyers also. So that's one perk which I say that if you don't have background, you can do that freely because otherwise you know everyone and you don't like go freehand while arguing your cases. And apart from that, now I feel it's not that tough to establish your practice. It will take some time, that's for sure. But if you join some good chamber and you work very hard, then people would like see that you do good. You'll get matters from debriefing advocates. So it's tough, but not that tough. Like if you want to do litigation, then I'll always advise you to go for it.
राइट. सो व्हेन यू थॉट कि हाँ मुझे लिटिगेशन में जाना है, हाउ डिड यू बिगिन, लाइक स्टार्टिंग में व्हाट वर द स्टेप्स, जो मतलब जो ऑडियंस देख रही है, जो इंटरेस्टेड है, उन्हें थोड़ा हेल्प करेगा वो.
So I'll say that I've been very fortunate that I worked with Mr. Rahul Kamwar, who is based in Jaipur. I worked with him while like I was in third year in college. So I did like my 2 3 internships with him. So he was the one mentor which I was like privileged to have. He told me that you should not opt for placements and you should rather join litigation because you've been doing moot courts and your research skills are good, you draft good. So litigation is something which is meant for you in the longer run and you'll enjoy the process much. So he was one of the motivating factors to like uh, for me to go into litigation, and that's how like I joined litigation after graduating. Like from the first day itself, I joined his chambers, and I started practicing there.
भैया अभी जैसे मेरे काफ़ी एन में भी फ्रेंड्स हैं, नॉन एन में भी हैं, बट नॉन एन जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनमें काफ़ी बात रहती है कि एन में होना आपको फेवर करता है. सो व्हाट डिफरेंस डज एन नॉन एन मेक इन टर्म्स ऑफ लिटिगेशन?
So I rather don't see any difference it makes in litigation. Litigation is a very fair play field. Like if you read your briefs, you argue well. It doesn't even matter in the court. The judges don't know you are from NLUs or non-NLUs. You do your work. You make your presence felt in the court or in the chamber or amongst the lawyers. So once you argue the matter in the courts, the lawyers don't even know that you come from an NLU or non-NLU. They only see you arguing your matter, and if you do very good in the court, they'll appreciate you. However, like you come from any of the college, so I don't feel that it matters much. And the only perk of having an NLU background is that you have a very good alumni network who can guide you. So if you come from a private law college or from like not very good NLUs, then you have to develop that network through your own skills. You have to find mentors who can guide you, like in researching and drafting. So that's one like disadvantage which we have, and NLUs have their own alumni networks who help them in like doing things. So that is the only difference. Otherwise, I don't find any difference like coming from NLUs or non-NLUs.
Right. So Bhaiya, like let's like divert towards law school and litigation. What would those some habits be that you would suggest that the law student who looks up to litigation should develop?
One habit which helped me a lot, like in law school, was to read a lot. Whatever like you get to read, you read it. Uh, Reading habit is one thing which helped me a lot to grasp the knowledge, to have the type of the law, like how the law is being shaped in the country by the courts across India. And apart from that, like I have told already that I did Jessups for twice. So Jessups का moot problem एक साल पहले आ जाता है. So you have to read a lot about the international law, how it functions, and how what are the basic principles of law. So once you read a lot, then your reading speed enhances a lot, and then you can filter out like what is relevant to you and what is not relevant to you. So it helps you in research also. It helps you in drafting, and once you're very well versed with your facts and the law, then you can become a good arguing counsel no matter like how from where you come from. So it doesn't even make difference. So reading is one thing. Participating in extracurricular activities, mooting is one thing which I'll suggest. If you want to go into litigation, you should do moots, no matter which one is which moot you get selected for from your law school. You do it. It helps a lot. Immensely helps a lot. And apart from that, you can watch like live proceedings now from Supreme Court, so that gives one very big advantage which we never had. You have access to every court link now. You can watch on YouTube how senior counsels argue their matter, so you can shape like how would you want to argue your matters, or how you would want to reply to the queries posed by the judges. So that is one thing which I feel that new guys can practice upon.
भैया बिकॉज यू मैंशन द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ मूटिंग, अभी जैसे कुछ लोग मिलते हैं एज इन वो एडवोकेट्स नहीं हैं बट टीचर्स हो गए हमारे जैसे, तो वो लोग कहते हैं कि नहीं मूटिंग इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं होती क्योंकि वो एकदम सेम होता नहीं है लॉ.
I don't want to like say anything against the teachers, but I have one principle in life. You should only take advice from that person who has skin in the game. So I feel the teachers don't have skin in the game. So if once someone is doing litigation, then only you can tell what is important and what is not. So I can fairly say you that mooting helps a lot. It helps a lot. It's the base ground like from where you evolve.
राइट. अच्छा ठीक है. सो अभी जैसे एज लॉ स्टूडेंट्स भी इंटर्न अंडर अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेसेस लाइक अंडर एडवोकेट्स एज वेल, how should one make the maximum out of their internships under any advocate?
To make maximum out of internship is one thing, like you should be very punctual. That is one thing which lawyers like you should come at time, you should do your work well. If some responsibility is given to you, you should prove your mettle there. If there is some problem which you have, you can ask n number of times. You create your own dependency. Like, that's what helped me a lot while I was interning. So if some task is given to me, I will make sure that I do that, and I do that to the best of my capabilities. So that's how you get recognized amongst the whole crowd which is existing in the chamber. So because I feel that there are n number of interns working in a good chamber, like 10 interns at a point of time. So if you want to get yourself recognized, then you have to do something which is very extraordinary. So you have to work very hard, you have to be very punctual, you should do the tasks which are assigned to you, and you should you should feel like you should never feel as an intern. You should see that it is your own case and you have to argue the matter. You should take the responsibility. So responsibility is one thing which takes you further in the game.
अच्छा, अगर आपके अंदर कोई इंटर्न करता है या किसी भी एडवोकेट के अंदर कोई इंटर्न करता है, what are those some expectations that an advocate has from an intern who's applying under you or working under them?
So the only expectation which I have is that the person should be willing to learn and willing to work hard, and that's the only expectation which I have, and some basic knowledge of law. Like, if you can say that I'm not getting internship, so how can I get experience? But then you can show your experience by saying that I published papers, I can draft well, so my articles are my example of my worthiness. So I have done something which is very worth it. So you can write articles, you can intern in the district courts, in the high courts, then you can come to the Supreme Court. So there is a chain, like, so if you go through that process, you have a little bit of understanding of law. And what I look like once someone starts working with me is that, which I already told you, one should be very punctual, hardworking, should take responsibilities, and should fulfill it to the best of the capabilities. I'm not saying that you work as good as me I can do, or like, or some other lawyer can do, but you are coming from a 5 year law school, so you have like basic knowledge of how the court functions and how the drafting goes on. So that is one thing which the chambers expect from you, that you do that.
Because we're talking about internships, can you mention some hierarchy or some preferences, जैसे आप उस दिन मुझे गाइड कर रहे थे थोड़ा सा, तो कि किस तरीके से कि बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं कि नहीं भाई हमें तो पहले सेमेस्टर में या दूसरे सेमेस्टर में ही सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना है.
यार, सो मेरा ये मानना है ना कि रेस नहीं है ये. हमारे दिमाग में भी बहुत होता था कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का टैग लग जाएगा, ये लग जाएगा. बट नाउ लेटर इन द लाइफ, so you understand life in the hindsight only, so once you go through the process, then you can make out like how it happened. So skill set is one thing which is above anything. So if you I would suggest you to work in the trial courts first for 1 or 2 years. Thereafter you go to the high courts, then you can see the difference, like how the high court functions. Because trial court advocacy is the art, and high court advocates and supreme court advocates are only the critique of that art. Like, so you learn in the trial courts, thereafter you go to the high court, and then you should go to the supreme court chamber. Because there is no purpose of coming here directly if you don't have any background. Might be a very good counsel, you argue very well, but the point being that how you'll get work if no one knows you in the high court or in the district court, who can give you work. So if no one knows you, then there's no purpose of being like in the Supreme Court initially.
सो लाइक फ्रॉम द कॉन्वर्जेशन दैट वीर हैविंग, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था कि मतलब क्या एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर्स में पार्टिसिपेट करना चाहिए डिबेट्स मूड्स, तो ऑफ कोर्स आप येस बोलोगे. एक और क्वेश्चन है भैया कि व्हाट इज़ मोर बेनिफिशियल, लाइक इंटर्नशिप्स पे ज़्यादा फोकस करना चाहिए या एकेडमिक्स पे या एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर्स पे?
सो मेरा मानना तो ये है कि यार सब करना चाहिए. मतलब 20s आर prime years of your life, like you do everything under the sky. You should not limit yourself कि मेरे को सिर्फ अभी, मतलब you are in law school, you should do everything. You can focus your career graph once you pass out from law school. So I'll suggest you do anything you want to do. You do MUNs, you do want to do debates, you want to do quizzing, you do go for that. You want to do participate in music competitions, you do that. Because this life will never return. Once you pass out from law school, let's say let's say like a stage where you go like you do one thing, then the other thing, then the other thing. But once you are in college, that's one thing which you can experience. So I'll suggest you to do everything, not to focus upon one particular thing. It might show you some new door, some new opportunity, but once you have not explored it, so how it will show you?
अच्छा भैया, सो यू टोल्ड कि आपके 8 साल हो गए हैं अभी प्रैक्टिस में, एंड तो क्या वो चैलेंजेस रहे हैं दैट यू फेस्ड और आपने ओवरकम किए? जैसे कुछ चीज़ें होंगी जो आप भी शायद डरते होगे पहले करने से कि मुझे इस चीज़ से अनकंफर्टेबल होता है या कुछ, तो इफ़ यू कुड शेयर दोज थिंग्स.
यार डर तो बहुत ही लगता है, मतलब कमिंग इनटू लिटिगेशन, दैट्स आल्सो वन बिग फैक्टर. लाइक I also did my company secretaries while I was in law school. So fighting my parents for litigation, opting for litigation and not taking placement is one thing which was a very big decision in my life. So I feel that it's always a it's always a, like a plunge of faith which you take. It's a leap of faith. You like, I believe in this principle that security is a myth and death is certain. So you do whatever you want to do, and then you don't like regret it that I have not done it. I had the time, I had the opportunity, I could have done this. So regret is one thing which you should not have it in your mind, like after some time. So डर बहुत लगता है यार. वकालत में आने में डर लगा, पहला केस आर्ग्यू करने को मिला तब बहुत डर लगा. और अभी भी वंस आई अपियर इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट, डर तो बहुत लगता है वंस यू आर ऑन द डाइस. एंड दे आर मेजर फैक्टर्स लाइक कि क्लाइंट आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, यू हैव टू पे बिल्स एंड एवरीथिंग. सो इट्स अ कॉन्स्टेंट स्ट्रगल लाइक विच गोज ऑन. सो डर तो है, बट फिर करना ही होता है.
एक क्वेश्चन जो मैं जैसे दो अभी इंटर्न किया कहीं कहीं, और भी एडवोकेट्स जो मैं देखती हूँ कि वो इस चीज़ के एडवोकेट हैं, इस चीज़ में प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, तो मुझे हमेशा क्वेश्चन आता है कि हाउ डज द पर्सन डिसाइड कि मुझे इस एरिया ऑफ प्रैक्टिस में जाना है.
That is, you don't choose like where you want to go initially. If you don't have any background, you can never choose. That is what I believe. Like, you might choose, that's one thing if you are very certain about it. But I would advise to go for a general practice. If you get a criminal matter, you study criminal law. If you get a civil matter, you study civil law. Because I see that 5 year school of 5 year of law school teaches us everything, like everything under the sky: corporate law, criminal law, constitutional law. So that is something which we have, like at the back of the mind, we have the knowledge of the subject. So I'll not advise you to go specifically for something from the first year itself. You do general law for 2 3 years, then you figure out that what intrigues you the most. So for me, like civil law, civil commercial law, that intrigues me more, like arbitration. I'll see something on the live law or bar and match, I'll start reading the judgment itself. It's not never like work, or it's like what's new happening here. So that's how you choose yourself like later in the life, and that's how you get the matters.
भैया तो जैसे वेन एवर लाइक वी सीक गाइडेंस, सब यही कहते हैं कि एक्सप्लोर योर सेल्फ, ट्राई टू डू एवरी थिंग. लेकिन जैसे कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें होंगी ना जो कि अगर हाँ मैं सोच रही हूँ फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि मुझे लिटिगेशन में जाना है, तो कुछ चीज़ें होंगी कि मुझे अभी से करनी चाहिए वो, कि ड्राफ्टिंग करो या मतलब एग्जाम्पल के लिए पब्लिश करो या जो भी. तो वो कुछ चीज़ें क्या होंगी जो बहुत ज़्यादा पैशनेट है अबाउट लिटिगेशन.
कुछ चीज़ें मैं यही बोल रहा हूँ कि सबसे पहले तो आप जजमेंट्स बहुत पढ़ें जो भी लाइव लॉ पे या बार एंड बेंच पे आते हैं. आपको पता होना चाहिए कि लॉ क्या कैसे डेवलप हो रहा है, क्या क्या इश्यूज अभी की कंट्री पे हैं जिन पे डिबेट्स हो रही है या विच आर गोइंग टू द कोर्ट. सो इफ a new law entrant is coming to the profession, so he must be aware of the arguments which are made in the hijab case or EWS matter or demonetization matter which is going to the Supreme Court. So these are one like constitutional challenges which are being presented in the court. So it helps you learn a lot about the constitution. Apart from that, like you work somewhere, like if you have time then you join some office, because practical experience is completely different from what we have been taught in the law school. It's completely different. So once you start working, then you realize like a lot of things, what matters and what doesn't matter in law. So if you are a law student wanting to go into litigation, then I'll suggest read a lot, participate in a lot of competitions which involve mooting and debating. So your skills and your public speaking fear gets away. Try to work as much as you can in a law like chamber which has a specialty in litigation. So you have to sacrifice. Like your friends would be going into very big short law firms, building very good CV, but then you choose someone who is in high court, who is not recognized much, but you work at that chamber. So that is one. So you have to like see what you can make out of it after 5 years. So you don't have to compete right now. You have to see like अभी मैं ये करूँगा, इस चेम्बर को ज्वाइन करूँगा, अभी इसको कोई नहीं जानता है, बट मेरे को इससे कितना सीखने को मिलेगा कि मेरे को कितना एडवांटेज मिल जाएगा, क्योंकि नो वन वुड फोकस ऑन यू इन अ वेरी गुड फॉर्म. दैट इज वन गिवन थिंग. बट if you join some small chamber where there are not much lawyers, so you'll get to learn a lot there. I see that attention is being paid to what you draft, what are your errors. That is one thing which is required.
Right. भैया, so like how, like ठीक है, तो जैसे एक लॉयर का मतलब एक एडवोकेट बहुत बिजी रहते हैं, बहुत सारा वर्कलोड होता है और काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें चलती रहती हैं, वैसे में हाउ डू यू इंजॉय योर पर्सनल लाइफ?
I enjoy a lot, yeah. You have to compensate somewhere. So if I know that there's a concert happening today, like, so if I want to attend it, so I'll start my day early. I'll work continuously like till 6 or 7. Then I'll go. Then I'll chill around. Then I'll come back again if there's matter which is like in the court tomorrow. Then I'll read it again. I'll wake up like early morning. So it's a process where you have fun and then compensate for it. Like.
Okay, in the end, like we've come to the end of the video, where what would that one piece of advice be to any college student or any law student from all the experience that you've had up till now that would help us?
Uh, Fail fast, learn fast. That's one thing. Like, do it. You'll have fears, but do it. You are very young. You can make mistakes. I make mistakes on a daily basis, but fail fast, learn fast. That's what works for me.
Alright, with that we come to the end of the video. I would like to thank भैया. Thank you so much for being here with us today. हमने बहुत टाइम से इसको डिले किया because भैया बिजी थे, but thank you so much for making time out for it.
Pleasure has been mine, Ananta.
Right. भैया की लिंक्डइन मैंने नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन में और कमेंट्स में डाल दी है, सो इफ़ यू विश टू कनेक्ट यू कैन डेफिनेटली डू सो. अगर वीडियो पसंद आई हो तो मेक श्योर यू लाइक द वीडियो, सब्सक्राइब टू द चैनल इफ यू हैवंट येट. आई विल सी यू द नेक्स्ट मंडे. टिल देन कीप वॉचिंग. नमस्ते.